All right, guys, let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons here for a little bit. This is a team a few days removed from their very first preseason game, but there's a lot of interesting news behind Atlanta. I think there's something that's really insightful that the Falcons recently did. I think it's a really good indicator of things to come. And look, I'm sitting here from a hotel room a few hours away from my brother-in-law's wedding. This is a big moment for me personally, but it's also a big moment for Falcons fans. That's where we're pumping out this content. That's the kind of news this could potentially be.
Yeah, Nick, I think this seemingly underwhelming, seemingly a move that would fly under the radar for a lot of people is something that we need to pay attention to because it has a bigger meaning for the Falcons going forward. But we're talking about this team, Nick. We're talking about how good this team is. We've seen the first preseason game. We've seen training camp up to this point. Falcons fans, you've had an assessment of these guys. I want to know today in the comment section below, who is your candidate for a breakout player this season? I think there's a lot of really great guys, but let us know who is your breakout candidate for this season in the comment section below. But Nick, let's get on into this seemingly underwhelming but sneaky move the Falcons have made.
Yeah, so look, like we talked about in the opening, the Falcons recently wrapped up their first preseason game. In fact, Miles, why don't you throw up their box score showing the receivers, running backs, and quarterback from the first preseason game? And I think there's something very insightful, and a lot of Atlanta fans, you guys may have realized this as well. But for example, look under passing there. You know, there's no Desmond Ridder. How about rushing? There's no Bijan Robinson, no Cordell Patterson, no Algier. How about receiving? I don't see London. I don't see Pitts. Right? They literally played nobody, no big-time players, no big-time starters, which to me at first was very interesting because you do have Desmond Ridder, kind of a new starting quarterback. You do have a guy like Bijan Robinson, obviously new as a new rookie this season. Kyle Pitts trying to come off injury. London going into year 2. You would think, and a lot of other teams are kind of doing this right now. You know, look at the Chicago Bears are a good example of this. They are playing their younger guys, even though they've been around a few years in the preseason, at least a series or two. I think this is Arthur Smith saying publicly and probably privately as well to these guys that he is extremely high on where his team is at right now. Because this is a guy, Arthur Smith, who last preseason, played Marcus Mariota the first preseason game against the Detroit Lions, made sure he got good reps, made sure they had a touchdown drive with Mariota. And Mariota was a much more seasoned veteran than Desmond Ridder was at the time. You look at this move now by the Atlanta Falcons, I think this is the biggest vote of confidence they have both in Ridder and this offense as a whole by deciding not to play him in the first preseason game. But Miles, let me throw it over to you now. What are your thoughts on this move by the Falcons and what it could potentially mean going forward?
Yeah, Nick, I think one thing you touch on is that Smith played Mariota last season, and not only is that important because he wanted to get him the reps or whatever, but it's more important showing his confidence in a guy like Ridder because he knew Mariota. He was with Mariota on the Titans for forever. He knows this guy inside and out, but he still felt the need to put him in the preseason through all of the reps to make, or through the first few reps of a drive to make sure, you know, he gets his feet wet. But still, nonetheless, you know, it didn't really pan out the way that we all thought it would. Desmond Ridder, now I think he has much more confidence in this guy and much more confidence in the whole team because you go through the whole depth chart, really. No guy that is on their starting roster had any touches in this game on offensive side of the ball. So I think this was a big move for them because they felt it necessary to rest these guys so they could evaluate everybody else. And, you know, there was some interesting ones. I think Igwe, the running back, had a nice day. But outside of that, Nick, I think it was a really great idea to rest these guys. You know, I think they deserve it. I think everybody's been doing really great through the preseason and training camp so far. This team looks much changed, and give them that boost of confidence. Say, hey, I trust you guys. And then the next week they come in, maybe give them a drive or two there, you know, boost the confidence, get everything clicking right before we get into the regular season. I think this is a huge move by Arthur Smith. And I think this is showing he's moving in the right direction as a coach, as far as giving his guys the confidence and being a stronger coach, and that this team is much better than it was last season.
Yeah, it's almost like they believe, at least Arthur Smith does, and they're acting like it like they're contenders, right? You only see really the top flight contenders, the guys who are in strong positions to win division titles and make playoff runs, do in the preseason what the Falcons are doing right now. Now, look, that makes a lot of sense because this is a really talented football team. This was a team with a little bit better quarterback play, a little bit better defensive play at times. They probably win the NFC South, and right now, between them and New Orleans, I think it's going to be a dogfight between those two guys. And if you look at the rosters, right, you look at the talent, the young, explosive talent on the offensive side of the ball for Atlanta, a much improved defense with some of the moves they made in free agency. If they can get through training camp and preseason, healthy and good rhythm, good timing, and it looks like they're doing just that, they're probably the favorite, in my opinion. They're certainly right there with New Orleans Saints to win that division.